All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, for the New York City 2023 Climate Week, I'm joined by Captain Paul Watson, who's famous for his direct action tactics to save marine life. Bonjour, Paul. How are you today?
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
Well, last time we spoke back in February, you and your foundation were gearing up for Operation Payakan. How did it go?
Well, on June 19th, we arrived in Icelandic waters, and within hours of our arrival, the Icelandic government put a temporary ban on whaling until the end of August. So, although the Faroe Islands was not on our agenda, we then went to the Faroe Islands and we intervened twice against the Grindadrap, the killing of the dolphins and pilot whales. But the problem was is that Denmark leaned on Jamaica, which is the ship had the Jamaican flag. And so they took our flag away from us on July 28th. So we were forced into port in the UK, and
Okay.
we're still working on getting a new flag. So Iceland started whaling on September 6th, and we were unable to get the ship back because we can't leave port without a flag. Two women, Anahita and Elisa, they occupied the crow's nest of the two whaling ships for 2 days, so that delayed them for 48 hours. But Christian Lofton has about 2 weeks where he can kill whales in that 2 week period, but then the season's pretty much over. So we plan on taking the ship, two ships actually, back in June of 2024 to make sure that we stopped them. We thought that the Icelandic government had stopped them, but the Icelandic government gave in because Christian Lofton is the wealthiest and most influential man in Iceland, and
Mhm.
he gets what he wants.
Yeah. So, so you said the season is almost over. Is this over now, or have they been able to whale actually, or no?
They've killed 7 whales
Oh,
today, and they've got probably another week, and that's about all because the weather turns against them, and the season is pretty much over. So he's only probably going to get about 12 whales, which is 12 whales too many. But,
absolutely. Yeah.
we do have people on the ground. We're documenting everything that he does, every whale that he brings in, what kind of whale, and how it's processed, and and we also have Samuel Rostov from Norway is doing a hunger strike in Reykjavik,
Yeah.
and they're doing everything they can on the ground. But there's only so much you can do on the ground, so we have to get a ship back there, and we can't do that until next June.
Okay. Um, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was about to say, like, whaling is illegal actually by international laws. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not recognized by the Icelandic government, right?
Well, yeah, these are endangered whales, and
Uh-huh.
also it's a violation of the International Whaling Commission's global moratorium on whaling. And Iceland withdrew from the IWC, then it went back to the IWC. To be fair, the Icelandic government is against it. The Icelandic government does not want to go whaling. The majority of people in Iceland are against whaling. But Christian Lofson is a modern day Captain Ahab. He's obsessed with killing whales. He's a very wealthy man. And he literally blackmailed the government. He threatened to take down the minister. He threatened to topple the government over this issue. And so the politicians buckled. And the only thing now is he's demanding a 4 year permit to continue killing whales for 4 years. If he gets that, then we will make sure that those whaling ships do not go out next June. I'll block.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Because this year I would say almost, well, you pretty much managed to cancel the season. Actually, how did you do that? Because it was very. I remember like following you on Instagram, and as soon as you arrived, you published like, okay, the government back up and managed to. You guys managed to cancel that actually. So.
Well, the Minister of Fisheries canceled it. She did it because of apparently a report from veterinarians that it was inhumane. But it's interesting that the cancellation was about 2 hours after we arrived in Icelandic waters. But when I go back in 2019, when we went to Iceland, they canceled it as soon as we arrived. In 2007, when we went to Iceland, they canceled it as soon as we arrived. So I think that the cancellation had quite a bit to do with the fact that we were there, whether they acknowledge it or not.
Mm.
But one thing for sure is that this has got to be ended, and I will block their operations next June. and we will be prepared in the event that they do another temporary ban to come back at the end of August if that happens. So I think, but actually, I don't think of only one of two things is going to happen. One, they're going to shut down whaling permanently, or two, they're going to allow him to go out next June.
Yeah, and you said next year if they allowed him to go, you'll be there with probably 2 shifts and for the whole season, I guess.
Yeah, we might even be there with three ships, but we
3.
definitely will be there.
Okay. Yeah, so to like this year you haven't been able to go back because of the that flag issues, right?
Right. Yeah, we can't leave port without a flag.
Uh-huh.
We're in the process of reflagging, but it takes about a month and a half or 2 months of surveys to get a new flag, and that's what we're in the
Uh,
process of doing. We'll have a new flag by the end of September, but too late to actually leave.
so why did Jamaica cancel the flight actually? Why did they do that?
We intervened against the killing of pilot whales and dolphins in the Faroe Islands, and the Faroe Islands said that we couldn't enter their waters. And I didn't enter their waters until a GRIN was called, and then I did, and then I was pursued by the Faroese Coast Guard. That happened twice. And Denmark responded by contacting Jamaica and saying, well, we had entered Faroese waters, although that was restricted, and that we had interrupted the killing of dolphins and pilot whales. And they requested that Jamaica strike our flag. And Jamaica didn't even contact us. They just struck the flag. So
Hmm.
Denmark really bullied them into doing it, and they did exactly what Denmark wanted them to do. I was
Yeah,
a little surprised. I thought Jamaica would be a little more resilient than that. But we have a new flag, but I'm not going to say what that flag is until we actually get it, just because
of
I don't
course.
want
Yeah,
to.
of course.
But we will have that new flag, and when we return next year, it will be with that flag.
Yeah, so that grind in the Faroe Islands seems to be an enormous task. I mean, because it can basically happen anywhere, like
Yeah.
on their territory. So, like I remember again watching a story, and you were saying we had like a few, we needed a few hours to get there. So it seems and like very difficult.
There's 24 different beaches where they can happen. On July 9th, we were to the north of the islands when the GRIN was called, and that was 2.5 hours to 3 hours away. So we raced as quickly as we could with the Faroese Coast Guard chasing us.
Mhm.
And the GRIN was called in Tórshavn, the capital, right on the beach there, which was horrendous because there was a cruise ship, the Ambition, from the Ambassador Lines, right there, and these pilot whales were massacred in front of hundreds of passengers, and which made international news because of that. Unfortunately, we arrived. We were as a race against time and distance, and we arrived just as it had finished. So all we were able to do was use our drones to document.
Yeah, yeah. Are you still there? I think I lost you. Well, it seems that we lost Captain Paul Watson. Hopefully, he's going to join again soon. Um, yeah, very, I mean, heartbreaking stories about those grind and how to stop them. I said grind, it's grind actually. Sorry for my French. Um, there you are.
I think we cut off. Suddenly, you just went dead.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So we were talking about the grind in the Faroe Island, and especially the one you were mentioning in front of a cruise ship, and how it made the news. So yeah, you can keep
Yeah.
going about that.
So we went back outside of Faroese waters. We were actually, recognizing that they had prohibited us there, but as soon as they call a GRIN, then all bets are off. So on July 19th, there was a pod of pilot whales that were spotted. So we immediately went back into Faroese waters, this time pursued by two Coast Guard vessels, but we were faster than them. So that pod was able to escape. Uh, 2 days later, they into court, and we weren't there. They didn't even give us a summons, but the court, without hearing our side of the story, uh, uh, fined us $23,000 for entering their waters, and they fined every crew member. As 27 crew members were each fined $600 for immigration violations, even though nobody actually set foot in the Faroe Islands. Well, we're not going to pay those fines, and we're appealing it. But that's the situation. And the other thing, of course, was Denmark striking our flag, getting Jamaica to strike our flag.
Hmm. So let's go back to that thing that actually made the news, because I've read that you guys documented it and kind of pushed the cruise line to actually issue a statement about it. Otherwise, they might not have done it, right?
The cruise ship line did issue a statement. They even called it barbaric. They said it was disgusting. And but what bothers me here is that they're still going to the Faroe
Yeah.
Islands. The Disney cruise lines have abandoned they're no longer going to the Faroe Islands. But these cruise ships have all got to stop going there as long as this is continuing to happen. We're also trying to get people to boycott Faroese farm salmon because the blood from the grind actually flows right through the places where these salmon are being raised, and the bodies of the dolphins are dropped in the water to rot under where these salmon are being raised. So there's a direct link with that, and it's a big source of income for the Faroe Islands. So we're trying to get people to boycott Faroese farm salmon because of this.
Yeah.
It's illegal in Europe to kill pilot whales and dolphins. Absolutely, totally illegal. It's a violation of European Union regulations. The Faroe Islands claim exemption. They're saying, well, we're not really part of Europe, but 85% of them carry EU passports issued by Denmark. So they get to enjoy the benefits of the EU and they can flaunt the regulations. I mean, it's the only place in Europe, I think, that this happens.
Yeah.
And Denmark is defending them. Denmark will try to say, and the Danish people will say, well, we're not involved with this. This is the Faroe Islands. But it's the Danish police that arrest people. It's the Danish courts that fine them and sentence them. It's Danish immigration, which tells them they have to deport them from the country. Denmark is very, very much involved with this, but they keep claiming. But I don't believe that.
We lost you for a bit.
Hello.
Sorry.
I
It's
don't know.
okay.
I got a pretty good internet connection.
Yeah, I
What
don't know what's
yours
going
is.
on. It's fine. That's, it's the technology. No worries about
But
that.
what I was saying is that what I'm saying is no place in Europe where people get the benefits of EU membership but don't have to obey
Yeah.
EU regulations.
And I still don't understand why the Danish government still wants to protect that. Why would they do that, especially if they are part of the EU?
I don't really know what Denmark's motive.
Stable connection. Mm.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
I switched to a completely different internet, so hopefully this will be better. If
Yeah.
it's on my fault, I don't know.
Yeah. It says that you have unstable connection. Well,
Still,
yes. Still. Oh, it looks
that's strange. I
it's
got a
looks like it's better. Yeah. Let's try to finish.
okay.
So we were
I
talking
haven't
about
had any.
the motivation of the Danish government about protecting the grant actually, because this is basically what they're doing.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to us. For instance, in Denmark, for instance, pork, which is a big thing in Denmark, if it has even the slightest amount of toxic chemicals in it, or lead or mercury, it'll be banned. You can't sell it. But yet here they allow the Faroes to use whale meat, which is heavily contaminated with PCBs and methyl mercury, and they allow that to feed to children.
Yeah.
So it's not only illegal under Denmark to kill whales and dolphins. It's also seems to be okay to feed contaminated meat to children in the Faroe Islands, and we don't understand why that is allowed at all. And the other thing we don't understand is that when you take the Faroese are only supposed to eat 250 grams of whale meat per month, and yet they kill way more whales than can possibly meet that need. And less than 50, more than 50% of the people in Faroes don't even eat whale meat. So they're killing everything they can find and literally dumping hundreds of bodies into the ocean, just throwing them away. It's
Yeah.
incredibly wasteful. This whole thing is done for no other reason than a traditional perversion that we want to kill these whales. We enjoy killing these whales. It's a celebration. We get drunk, we go down there, and we get to stab and spear and mutilate these whales, and it's part of our tradition. And that's
Yeah,
the only
but
reason.
I mean, I can understand the tradition, but the way they do it right now, like, gives absolutely no chance to the whale because they're chasing them with boats, and I don't think they had motorboats like 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's no chance for them to survive. Plus, like, they're killing their families, so they just. I mean, it's very barbaric way to do it.
You're killing pregnant females or killing newborn calves. It's killing entire families, and they do it. The only thing that hasn't changed traditionally is the joy they get from killing. That's it. Uh, and they weren't able back in 200 years to kill that many whales that they do now. Uh, so it's a perversion. It needs to be stopped,
Yeah.
and we're going to do everything we can to do it. There have been changes. When we first began going against this hunt, 100% of the people in the Faroe Islands were for killing whales. Now it's less than 50%. So
Mm,
people have people have changed. But I remember conversations with former Prime Minister Atlee Dam, who you couldn't really reason with him because he came down with, "This is God's gift to the Faroese. You don't question the word of God." And I said, well, in Leviticus, it says you can't eat anything from the ocean that doesn't have scales. So this is a direct, uh, violation of the Old Testament. You cannot eat whales. And he said, God made an exception for the Faroese people. I mean, how do you reason with people like that?
yeah. Yeah. Why did he made an exception for them and not for the others? Like this? Okay. Yeah. There's no way you
And
can argue. You can argue.
also, when they say that, well, traditionally we depended upon this for meat. You go into any Faroese supermarket today, you can buy anything that you can buy anywhere in Europe. The Faroese have one of the highest per capita incomes in Europe. The thing that I was astounded by in supermarkets, you can go and buy New Zealand lamb in a Faroese supermarket in the Faroes where there's more sheep than people. So they're actually bringing in sheep from Australia to sell. Um, they have fast food restaurants. They have everything that you actually need. They say it's non-commercial. They don't sell the whale meat, but actually they do. They sell it to tourists and restaurants, and they sell it in the markets.
Mm, yeah. They're just. I mean, yeah. It's so you guys are planning to go back there, right?
Yes. Well, next year I tend to send a big land crew of about 30 people that will intervene against the killing of the
Mm,
whales, doing civil disobedience. We'll have the ships in Iceland, but in the event that Iceland cancels the whale hunt, we'll have the ships back in the Faroe Islands.
yeah.
So our two priorities for our foundation is shutting down whaling in Iceland, shutting down the Grind in the Faroe Islands.
Okay. Um, so now let's talk about the Neptune Pirates that you recently announced. What can you tell us about it? Because I think there's a lot to say as well.
Well, in 1977, when I established the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, until 2022. The problem in 2022 is that the organization, there was a hostile takeover, and they wanted to change the entire direction of what the problems, and that I was too controversial, I was too confrontational, that I had that they wanted to work with governments, they wanted to go mainstream. And of course, a lot of them, because of the success of our television show, Whale Wars, a lot of them got into a position where they had nice, comfortable jobs. People that I had worked with and trusted for 20 years were now saying, well, we got to change, we're too radical. No, we're not. We've never been radical. We're actually been conservatives. There's nobody more conservative than being a conservationist.
Yeah.
But the strategy I developed with Sea Shepherd was called aggressive nonviolence, aggressive intervention without hurting anybody. And they wanted to change that. And so I was forced out of Sea Shepherd. So I set up the Captain Paul Watson Foundation. The reason I named it that is because it's pretty hard to take that away from me because it's my own name.
Absolutely.
But I brought out with me a lot of supporters, a lot of crew members. One of our supporters, John Paul DeJoria, called me up and he says, "If you need a ship, I'll give you a ship." We found a ship. He bought the ship, so that was our first ship. We continue to work with Sea Shepherd France and Sea Shepherd Brazil. Sea Shepherd UK became the Paul Watson Foundation UK. So we're carrying on, continuing to do exactly what we've been doing for the last 45 years. We haven't changed. Sea Shepherd
As
Global changed. Sea Shepherd US changed. But
yeah, they have changed. You haven't changed.
yeah, they haven't. One of the things I was most astounded by is Sea Shepherd Australia did a partnership with the Austral Fishing Company and the Marua Daichiro Fishing Company of Japan. And that I just couldn't understand at all. But then I found out that the CEO of Austral Fisheries helped Sea Shepherd Australia get their tax status. And in return, Sea Shepherd suddenly was now supporting these fishing companies. And Austral Fisheries specializes in taking Antarctic and Patagonia toothfish, which is sold in markets as Chilean sea bass. It's not from Chile, it's not a bass, but it's one of the most expensive fish on the markets, and it's taken out of the Southern Ocean. So I just find it appalling that Sea Shepherd Australia is now supporting and working with a toothfish company that out of Australia, which is connected, 50% owned by a Japanese company, which used to be the Taiyu Fishing Company, which used to own whaling ships.
Yeah. So now it's so it used to be called the Neptune Navy. So now it's Neptune's Pirates, right?
Yes, what happened was is that I'm forbidden to use the flag and the logos that I designed. I'm not allowed to use those. They threatened me with legal action. They're suing Sea Shepherd France over that. So we called it Neptune's Navy. But then because I actually created Neptune's Navy in 1985, Sea Shepherd's now claiming, well, because you did it while you were with Sea Shepherd, we own that. So I said, okay, we're going to call this Neptune's Pirates because we know that they don't like pirates. They don't even use the Jolly Roger, which they claim to own, which I designed. They don't even use it other than on merchandise. They won't fly it from their ships. So they're because the countries they work with in Africa or Mexico don't like the pirate image, they're not using it. So I decided, well, they're not going to take that away from us. So even actually trying to say I have no right to use my own because their reasoning being in the court was that my name is too closely linked to Sea Shepherd and therefore it causes irreparable damage to their what they refer to as their brand. They actually refer to Sea Shepherd as a brand which they control. And so the pirate thing is, I think, is a good way to go, because they're not going to have anything. They're not going to own the pirate industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you still there? I think no, it's okay.
No,
um,
I'm still here. Yeah.
yeah. So you spoke about Sea Shepherd France and Sea Shepherd Brazil, but specifically Sea Shepherd France, you seem to have a very close relationship, which still holds the name of your previous organization. I've seen like other organization, as you mentioned, Sea Shepherd UK, that is now Captain Paul Watson Foundation UK. Is there a similar plan for Sea Shepherd France?
Sea Shepherd France is one of the strongest and most effective Sea Shepherd group in the world, which is led by Lamia Salami, and she was formerly a global director. They dismissed her from the global board for supporting me. But she's fighting them right now, and there's the Dutch courts and in the French courts, because they're suing her, saying she has no right to use the logo, she has no right to use the name. And if she wins, then she has the right to use that. But so that goes. If she's forced to change, she will. But the name is, and also I think everybody knows that it's different than Sea Shepherd Global.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes in the courts.
Yeah, for sure. I think now, I think a lot of people saw in the media what happened, so they probably know how to make the difference between the two foundations. Well, I'm sure you have more projects and missions in the pipeline. So can you tell me more about it? We spoke a little bit.
With Sea Shepherd, we're working closely with Sea Shepherd France and also the foundation in the UK and in Brazil. So in Brazil, we're working to protect the river dolphins, the Amazon. We're also working with anti-poaching on my